everybody. Welcome to another episode of Stop the Madness. I am your host, The Kid Plot. My co-host, Isaac Cotto.
What's up? We back.
We back.
4th of July came and went.
Vacation over.
You was in vacation. I was in vacation.
Yep.
But I think your vacation was a lot better than my vacation.
Maybe. I was in Cancun.
You was in Cancun, Tulum.
Living my best life.
I was on a boat for 7 days with my brother.
Hey, a boat is cool.
It was cool. We had a good time. It was a jiu-jitsu camp. It was amazing.
Hell yeah.
But Tulum sounds pretty good.
I suffer from motion sickness, so I don't know if the cruise would have worked for me.
All right. Well, I did it one time. It's cool. I had a good time, but I think my next trip is to Tulum.
But yeah, so what's on the menu today, man? What we talking about? What topic?
We got a few things. Like I said, I try to stay current on the current events. But one was about Skip Bayless.
Oh yes.
All right. So Shannon left him.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Gone, about to get the big paycheck.
Yep.
And now they announced that he's not coming back. Skip is not coming back till August.
I think it was August 28th.
Yep. And I think they're struggling to find somebody. That's my take.
I don't think so.
Why?
I just think they have too much money. I think that, the money is going to get somebody. I know you probably believe, these guys that they're looking for are ex-players. They already have money. Shannon Sharp was an ex-player. He came on the show years ago. And Skip Bayless is the same dude. He has not changed. He's been the same guy for 30 years, 20 years, whatever amount of years. When he was with Stephen A. Smith, same dude. So he hasn't changed. Everybody knows how he is.
But I think it's different now with the age. Like, his fallout with Stephen A. Was, 10 years ago? I don't know how many years ago.
Okay.
Versus his fallout with Shannon is different in the age of social media. And I think...
Well, he didn't fall out with Stephen A. His issue, the thing that happened at ESPN was that Stephen A. was, to my knowledge, Stephen A. was making more money than him. And when they went to renew his contract, Skip wanted more money and they wouldn't give him a higher pay than what they were paying Stephen A. And that's when he decided to leave. Because in his mind, I think he was like, I'm the one that brought Stephen A. here. How is it that Stephen A. is going to make more than me? So that's why he left. So he's on Fox, but he brought Shannon Sharp on. Obviously Shannon Sharp is about to do his own thing, but I have a hard time believing that somebody is not going to be willing to come for a few $1 million to talk sports.
I mean, when you put it at a few $1 million, yes. But I think the perception, because of how he treated Shannon a few times, which everybody believes is the reason why Shannon Sharp left the show.
I think so.
In this age of social media, Instagram, just all the clips, I think a lot of those athletes that are on shows currently, they don't want to end up being another Shannon Sharp, right? Where they get certain treatment from Skip because Skip is, for all intents and purposes, the boss, right?
Yeah,
and
the Godfather.
Right. So I don't think you got a lot of these athletes now that don't want to get that same kind of treatment. So for me, I think it's harder for him to get talent to come on board. I mean, there's only a few names. Like, we all know the names, right? Acho.
So here's the thing. Even though it's harder, I think that the amount of people that Skip would even want is just as short as the amount of people that would want to be there. So even though the list is small of who would probably want to work with Skip, there's a lot of people Skip don't want to work with. So it goes. Trust me, Skip is not an easy person. Like, there's a lot of people he wouldn't work with anyway. You see what I'm saying? So I think that Skip is very picky, and he should be, because he knows his personality is not acceptable by everybody, right? So, but at the same time, I think that they did find somebody. I think when they come back on air, August 28th, I think they're going to have a co-host. I know you probably think that. What do you think? It's going to be solo?
No, I think that I know they've done all kinds of these debate shows where they bring just special guests, like someone different for a week until they find the right mix.
You know why I don't think Skip is old school. Skip doesn't like that. Stephen A. is willing to do that.
Okay.
Because I think Stephen A., because he's a lot younger than Skip, and Stephen A. is okay with being, I wanted to. This is his show, so if anything were to happen, there's not a big change because there's not a co-host. I just got visitors every day, right? One visitor leaves, no big deal. We replace him with another guest, right? But when you have a co-host leaves, it's a major change, right? But Skip Bayless is old school, man. He likes having one guy to go up against every single day. You could bring somebody on as a guest, but I still got my co-host. to debate topics.
For sure.
That's his format. It's always been that. That's been his format since he started Cold Pizza, before it was First Take.
Yes, that's a
When it was called Cold
long
Pizza.
time ago.
When Stephen A. Smith had a hairline. So shit.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, for them to go 2 months to say, hey, we need a reset. So
Yeah,
of course, he's gonna say something like, hey, big things. Of course, he's gonna say that. But man, like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, but you're gonna look stupid if you say that, and then August 28th comes and you didn't do anything big.
No.
Trust me, they got somebody. They got somebody.
Okay,
I think
Nate,
it's Acho.
You think it's Acho? I mean,
it's Acho.
I agree with you that Acho makes the best sense as far as
so.
when it comes to debating, bringing up topics.
Smart
I think he
dude.
does an amazing job on the show he's on now. He debates. Even if he doesn't agree, he presents arguments to the contrary, right? Like,
Exactly.
if he thinks the sky is blue, but he'll make a solid argument why it's red, and it's a believable argument. I think he's great when it comes to doing that stuff.
Because he's very educated, and the fact that he's educated, he's able to articulate his point of view and try to convince you that what he's saying is the fact or the truth.
Let me ask you this: would you be able to handle that kind of schedule those guys have? Them dudes are waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, because they go on at. I mean, they're in LA, so
they
come on at. Well, it's Undisputed came on at 9:30 in the morning East Coast time, so that's 6:30 in the morning. Over
yes, so he's getting up at 2, 3 to be there at 4.
And Skip is the one that puts together the actual questions, the topics. He puts together the topics, so. And he does that like sometimes he does that hours before the show or the night before. So yeah, I think them jokers wake up at like 2, 3 in the morning.
Let me tell you, I was in the military. They didn't pay me nothing, and I had to be in formation at 5:30, and I did it for 5 years. That no matter what was going on, I had to be up, ready, in formation. 5:30, sometimes 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
my man, to get up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning every day. Not only getting up, you gotta look sharp, clean, awake, be ready to talk. Bro, you got to be going to sleep at like 8 o'clock at night. Like, to me, that's vampire hours almost. Well, it's like a night shift.
Let me tell you this. Before I became an influencer on social media, Instagram in particular, years ago, this was back in 2005, I used to work for a company called Toto.
Okay.
That's literally what
wait.
They're called Toto.
Okay.
I swear to God. If you
for those, all right, for those who don't know what that word means, all right, in Puerto Rican,
it means vagina.
Vagina.
And
all right.
Dominican,
Okay.
And Dominican too.
Oh, really?
And
okay. I
Cuban
didn't.
too.
Okay. All right.
The Caribbean mainly.
Yes. Okay. All right.
So
Cool.
Let me get back to my story.
Yeah. All right.
So I used to work for this company called Toto. They're here in Georgia. They're by LaGrange, Georgia. Okay. That company, what they do is they make toilets. If you ever go to any company, if you ever go to any like hotel, you know the famous brand is that Kohler.
Yes.
Kohler. Toto is like the second biggest, right? So those are the two brands you're gonna always see. A lot of people don't pay attention to that stuff, but if you ever look, you're gonna notice a lot of like movie theaters. It'll say TOTO. Okay. So that's the name of the company. They make toilets, they make sinks, that type of stuff. So when I worked for that company, this was back in 2005. I'm 19 years old. What I did for them was I literally just pushed the toilet, not the toilet bowl, but the sink, the part where the water goes.
The reservoir.
The reservoir, right? So I used to push the reservoir into an oven. So the actual reservoir was still clay, right? And then you put it into the oven and it gets really, really hard, right? Because it cooks pretty much. So for that company, I used to go in at 5 a.m., okay? It was an hour away from where I lived. I lived in Gwinnett County.
So you had to leave at 4 o'clock.
In LaGrange, which was like an hour away, okay? So that means I had to wake up at 4. I'm sorry, I had to wake up at 3, leave my house at 4 to be there by 5. I used to work 5 to 2 every single day.
That's brutal.
I lasted a month.
Exactly. My point exactly, bro.
I lasted a month, bro.
I don't care. Man,
That shit
you could be
is
getting paid a
terrible.
lot of money, but to do, like, actors do it for movies where they work in crazy hours, all this kind, but it's for a specific short period of time. But to say, hey, congratulations, you got a 5-year contract. Bro, that's fucking hard, man.
Yeah.
Like to get up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Nah, it's terrible.
Anyway, let's talk about another hot topic
What's that?
that's come up a lot. There's a movie called The Sound of Freedom that recently came out with Jim Caviezel, the guy who did Passion of the Christ, and is in basically a movie on child trafficking. Right?
Yeah, I gotta see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Haven't seen it. I think I'm gonna see that movie. I think by myself. My wife could not see that movie. I'm not even sure I want to see it. All right, so
I mean, but it's good. It's good. It's good to support it.
I've already seen some reviews. They said it's a great movie, but it's a deep topic. And we were just having a conversation before about the issue of child trafficking. It's prevalent. We know it's going on, but the question is, who are the traffickers? And I imagine the movie touches on that. And have you seen? I take it you've seen the movie Taken.
I have.
Okay, Taken basically it's it's based on child trafficking, but but they make it into an action movie. But they present it as like these Middle Eastern guys that are doing this, and basically they're super rich and they're doing it. And we were talking about it, and like explain a little bit about your perception as far as when it comes to pedophiles, child traffickers, affluent, rich, multimillionaires, billionaires. What's your position on that?
Well, I mean, I just think that there a lot of those pedophiles in particular. Like if we're just speaking about pedophiles, I mean they're sick. They obviously have a problem, but typically the pedophiles that get away with it are the ones with a ton of money, right? Broke pedophiles, they don't get away with it. They get locked up. You know what I mean? But the ones that got big money, like especially the billionaire ones or the ones close to it, they get away with it. And it just, from what I've noticed, is that a lot of these guys that have that much money, when you have that kind of money, you also get a lot of power. And when you have a lot of power, you start to do shit that you tend to get away with, right? Like the more if you're a billionaire, a lot of your friends have power,
for sure.
And when you have a lot of friends with power that probably have they might not have as much money as you, but they got a lot of power and they have a lot of money too, you're able to do a lot of things that the average person can't do. And child trafficking is one of those things that if you have a lot of money, you can do it and get away with it, right? And I just believe that the more money you get, the more power you have, the more inclined you are to do shit like that, to be a pedophile. Now, I get it. It takes a special type of person to be a pedophile, right? Even rich people doesn't mean you're gonna be a pedophile. But a lot of times when you get to that level, you start to get bored. You start to get to the point where you're like, man, like I want to do something else. I done had multiple women at the same time that I bought. I done had, or these people that took the Titan down into the, into the ocean to try to see the Titanic, the old Titanic parts of the ocean of the boat. You know what I mean? So, and they ended up dying. So when you get that kind of money, you start to want to venture off into doing things that not a lot of people in the world can do. And believe it or not, child trafficking is one of those things. Now, clearly you have to have an interest in that, but there's a lot of people that have those interests, but they can't do it because they don't have the money to do it.
I mean, there's the famous saying that money shows who you really are, right? So, you may have inclinations, but you don't, like you said, you don't have the access, you don't have the money, the means to really do it and not get in trouble, right? So, but I think, look, I've had a lot of experiences in my life. I've done a lot of crazy things, but to be a pedophile, that's something that's in you, like deep in you. No amount of access will make you a pedophile. Like that is you. I think regardless of income.
You see, you know why I disagree with you on that? Like, I agree a little bit, but I disagree more. And the reason why that is because, for example, like you're not a murderer because you never killed anybody, right? Okay. And you don't think you wouldn't get a kick of just killing somebody, right? Murderers typically get a high off of that, or whatever, right? Okay, they like doing it. Okay. Correct. But if you end up getting in a situation where you know that you can kill somebody and nothing's gonna happen, right? For example, let's say there's somebody you can't stand, that you hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did something to you in the past. You can't stand them, and they've hurt you, or they might have hurt somebody close to you, but you're like, I can't kill this dude because I'm gonna go to jail for the rest of my life. If you had the opportunity, right, to, let's say they did something to you today,
Okay.
and they say, yo, tomorrow you could do what you want, man. You good. If you know you're gonna get away with it, 100%, even though you're not a murderer, a lot of people will do it. If that person did something to you that in your mind is worthy of murdering them, you would do it. That doesn't mean you're a murderer. So my point is, a lot of times as human beings, the reason why I'm bringing an example so extreme like that is because a lot of times as human beings, when you can get away with something so
Vile,
the tendency is you will actually do it. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean,
like that situation. But if there's no repercussions, you won't do it.
You're talking. Okay, pedophilia is harming a child. Okay, we're not talking about the 17-year-old that looks like she's 21.
Okay,
right? Like that. You know, we're not talking about that scenario, right?
I agree.
We're talking about a 10, 9, 11, 7, 6.
And I think that's it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If the motivation of me causing harm to kill somebody is based on revenge, whatever, those are specific scenarios versus me saying, hey, I enjoy seeing someone suffer and breathing their last breath, and guess what, I'm a billionaire and this is what I want to do, and no, I'm gonna go to some poor country and I'm gonna get some poor soul and I'm gonna chop them up in my basement, nobody's gonna know.
No, you have to have a level of
that's way different than a pedophile that he's harming a child and says, you know what, where can we go to find another 7-year-old girl?
Well, and that's the part that I agree with you on, because I agree. I want to make it clear. I'm not saying that that's an excuse or that. No,
we're not saying that they're excuse. Right, absolutely.
But what I'm saying is that a lot of the if you have a little bit of, like you just said, the more money you make, the more you show who you are. If you have a little tendency of something, right, that's probably illegal, give that man $1 billion.
And he's gonna go for it.
He's gonna go for it.
Well, we talked about Fogel, the subway guy. Netflix has a documentary. That's exactly what happened.
Yep.
He got famous. He got money.
It doesn't surprise me.
He started doing all these presentations with just kids. And guess what? He was a pedophile, and he had the motive. That's what he wanted to do, and he had the opportunity, and he had the money, and he was able to do those things. And he got busted, thank God, right? But I think something like pedophilia is just one of those things that it has to be in you. I don't, you could be a person of access. There's people that grew up in the 70s and were swingers, and they did everything. There's no inclination to abuse children. You know what I mean? Like I could, you could have 100 women in a room and you could be like, Dan Bilzerian once said, I saw an interview, he said, you know what, when you get your first Lamborghini, you're like, oh my God, I got a Lamborghini. But guess what? 10 Lamborghinis later, it don't mean shit to you.
Right.
And so you're always looking for that high of the first thing or whatever it is, and it becomes more and more difficult. And yes, I do believe that can happen. But when it comes to something like pedophilia, where you're harming children, bro, that's not, I don't believe that's something that develops over time. That's something you're into young kids, boy or girl.
You see,
regardless of your financial status, you just have the access because you may have financial access.
And this is where my disagreement comes with you, is that I'm going to give you another analogy or another example. A woman that likes men. She's a heterosexual woman. She doesn't like women, right? But there's some women, given the opportunity, will experiment with the same sex. Okay? That doesn't make them a lesbian. They just experiment it.
Okay.
Just wanted to see what it was like.
Okay.
A lot of these guys, right, that are committing these pedophile acts, right? A lot of these guys, given the opportunity, They're like, damn, I want to experiment because they have the means to do it. I know you don't agree with experimenting, but a woman that experiments with a woman, that doesn't make her a lesbian, does it?
No.
But if a man experiments with a man, what is he?
Right.
Oh, see the double standard?
Yeah, that's a double standard.
But that's the same thing with this. If the guy or whoever it is that's into child or into children, right, in child trafficking, what are they trying to do? A lot of them, they're just experimenting because they don't know if they like. Some of them don't know if they like it yet. I've heard cases of there's something I just want to try it out, see what it was like, and then they ended up liking it. Just like a woman, I never been with a woman. I want to try it out.
Same thing with a man. A man can be like, right. I just tried it and I like it. Okay.
You have the opportunity, you have the means to do it. You end up doing some fucked up shit if you got the means.
Even if you know you're causing harm.
Even if you know you're causing harm.
Even
if you know you're causing harm, bro.
I think pedophilia is just one of those.
I know what you're saying, and I think it's terrible. I would never do it myself.
Right.
I'm telling you based on what I think the human mind of other people, the way it works, the way human beings typically work. Not everybody, but the way human beings typically work when you get to that level. See, me and you are not at that level. See, and I know you're saying right now, even if I was at that level, I wouldn't do it. And I agree. I wouldn't do it even if I'm that level. But there's some people, even if they got 2% of that in them, right?
We'll try it.
They'll try it as an experiment. Yo.
They'll go to some far-off country.
I don't want an 8-year-old. Just give me a 13-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what's going on?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? It's still pedophile. Right?
For sure.
It's still a child.
For sure.
But because they have the means to do it, and then they got the power to do it. It's not just the means. They got the power to do it as well. They end up experimenting because they're fucking bored. They want to try new shit.
Okay, I mean,
they want to try new shit. They done tried everything.
I think it's in you. I think it's in you from the beginning. But I mean, look, there's a
woman that tries with another woman. Is that in them from the beginning?
Yeah, but you're not. The issue is harm. The issue is harm. It's again
what
like.
What if the kid wants to do it? What if the 13-year-old wants to do it?
But as an adult, you know you're causing harm.
But what if the kid wants to do it?
It's okay. It's the same thing as, hey, there's this person's like, man, I want to die. Kill me. Go ahead. You can kill me. Go ahead and stab me. It's okay.
Right.
For me to physically put a knife in a human and take their life.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to be built for that. Like, there's something in you.
Okay.
So it's the same thing. If you get a 13-year-old that says, hey, I enjoy it. Like, I've been doing this since I was, 8 years old. I like it. Like, let's have a good time.
What if they're 16?
No, it's still.
Okay, what if it's an 18-year-old having sex with a 16-year-old?
That's different.
Why?
That's not pedophilia. Based on American laws, they're 18. An 18-year-old. An 18-year-old is an adult. There's famous cases. There's famous cases where a 17-year-old kid just turns 18, had a full ride to Florida State to be a football player. He gets caught. He had a video messing around with a girl, 16. Went to jail, lost everything. And they changed the law, I think, in Florida for that. But I think that there's a clear distinction. But that scenario,
what if 21 and 16?
That's pedophilia to me.
20 and 16.
I still think
19 and 16.
I still think that's too far. The distance is too far.
1 year.
18
and 19 is the difference.
No, a 19-year-old with a 16-year-old is too far.
But 18 and a 16 is not.
It's debatable. It's debatable. It's because for me, a 19-year-old within 2 years. The issue is if I go back and forth 2 years. Say a 19-year-old go back 2 years. He's 17, and this person's 14. The develop, but that's way different than what we're talking about. Child trafficking.
No, but the reason why I'm bringing and
pedophilia is completely.
The reason why I'm bringing that up is because
the 18-year-old is not messing around with the 16-year-old because he likes young girls. He sees the 16-year-old as almost his peer. The 18-year-old that's messing with a 13-year-old, right? That's different. There's something in the 18-year-old that says, I like really young kids, young girls, right? But an 18-year-old messing with a 16-year-old that's going to be 17 probably in 6-7 months, they're not attracted to the 16-year-old because they're young.
Because they're a kid. Okay.
They see them as a peer, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
You take a 23-year-old messing with a 16-year-old, You're messing with the 16-year-old because you like young girls. In my opinion.
I got you.
Right? If a 23-year-old is messing with an 18-year-old, well, guess what? At 18, they can join the military. That you can vote. You can do all this kind of stuff. Yeah. You're legally an adult. You can make your own decisions. But a 23-year-old messing with a 16-year-old, you like young girls. That there's a problem. And if she looks like a woman and you know she's 16 and you still do it, it doesn't excuse you. That's my take on it.
So you telling me when you was 21, you ain't never messed with no 17-year-old?
Never.
Well, you can't.
Never. Never. Look at you. Really? Really? Never.
Hey, man.
Never.
Listen, when I was 21, I messed around with an 18. She was 17 going on 18. She was like a few months away.
That's different. That's different.
She was 17.
But I never had that scenario.
She was about to be 18. It was like 2 months away.
My high school sweetheart was 2 years. I was a June. I was a year and a half. A junior, she was a sophomore. So when I was a senior, she was a junior. So we had the age, but I wasn't into her because she was a minor.
Neither was I. But we're still going by the. You see,
but again,
that's a slippery slope, bro.
But bro, what you talking?
No.
We started out talking about the Sound of Freedom, where these dudes are getting little kids.
But no, of course. But the reason why I bring that up is because of I'm just trying to use those as examples of you having the opportunity to do something. Just like I said about a woman, if she has the opportunity to, a lot of women, they experiment, even though they love men only. Now, some are like, nah, I don't like women at all. I don't even want to, you know what I'm saying? But there's some women that they love men. Men is what they want, but they have still experimented with a woman. Because
they're curious.
They're curious.
That's the same, right?
So a guy that's involved in child trafficking that buys a child, you're telling me that he's not, just curious?
You know,
he's not just curious, Kodo.
He's not just
curious.
There's no way.
He might be curious. He just want to jump in and say, "Let me see what the flavor is."
Nah, bro. Like. Nah, you're not gonna get me to say yes to that. There's no way.
He's not just curious.
No, man, not to fuck around with a little kid, bro.
What if he's 16? He's not that little.
Nah. You talking about if the girl's 16?
No, a guy. Let's say that the guy. Let's say it's a guy. Let's say the 16-year-old is like, I'm gay.
The 16-year-old.
The 16-year-old. Let's say he's gay. Another country, Honduras. They know he's gay. He's like, because at 16, you'll know.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, they smuggle him into America. Now, obviously, they're selling him against his wishes, but they know he's, homosexual.
And this is what he likes to do.
Right. He likes to sleep with men. Okay. But he's 16, so he's a minor. The man is 50.
There's a lot of grown ass men that are gay. Like
he can't experiment?
No. There's no.
So that experimentation is not okay.
No, even if it's a female.
Then that female experimenting is not okay.
If you know what, the Jeffrey Epstein saga. I know a lot of females from other like Latin countries. And I got an opinion where they said, look, when I was 16, I knew what I was doing. And if a girl's messing around with some viejo old guy with money and she's going out to the boat and she's taking the trips and she's getting this, that, and the other, and she's screwing them, she's not a victim.
Right.
She knows what she's doing.
Of course.
Right. But here in the States, Jeffrey Epstein's a pedophile messing with a 16-year-old, even though the 16-year-old is like, hey, I enjoy this. Like, take me to the island, take me on the boat, take me on the plane. I'll do all this. Right. Here in the States, they're still, quote unquote, victims, right? Because at 16, they can't sign a contract, right? They can't sign a contract. They can't do certain things because it is believed they're not mentally prepared to make those decisions.
So, Kodo.
Right? So.
You telling me at 21, you ain't messing with no 17-year-old?
I've never have.
You never have?
I never have.
You sure?
I've never. I never
Don't
was.
Don't make me go on Facebook and start Googling.
Let me tell you. At 21, I was married. So.
How old was your wife?
She's actually 27.
She was older than you?
She's 6 years. My ex-wife is 6 years older than me.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I thought you ain't like younger women. Not back then.
She looked like J-Lo at the time, so I really didn't care at that point. So I didn't really. That was true. I was young. And
so then Y'all got divorced?
Yes, we did.
At what age?
I was 28 when we got separated and 31 when we got divorced. I'm sorry, yeah, 31 when we got divorced.
So at what age did you start seeing other women?
As soon as I got divorced.
Not when you separated.
But correction. As soon as I got separated, I started.
So at around 28?
Yeah, 28.
But
there was
the
no
age of the girls when you
they were all in their 20s, late 20s. There was no teenagers. I was never in an environment where I was gonna encounter a teenager.
Oh, you weren't?
I was never in an
Never
environment.
went to the club.
Okay, all right, let's get on the next topic.
You never went to the club?
Now it came back to me. What you talking about? Okay, all right. For y'all that don't know, right? Our past lives, we did security at a nightclub.
Yes, we did security at a nightclub.
Okay.
And there was nothing like teenagers in that motherfucker.
I forgot how old was I. But
in that club, there was 16 fucking year olds and 17 year olds because I know them personally today. They were 16 at the time. I was 19. They were 16 at the time.
And I was 20-something.
And you were in your 20s. And I guarantee you,
I can neither confirm or deny that I had knowledge.
I don't put myself in those positions.
Okay.
Really? Every Saturday, you was in that motherfucker.
Now I see how he's setting me up. Little by little, he was like, "Oh, really?
Hey, yo.
Oh, really?
Hey,
You
yo.
never in a nightclub?"
Every Saturday, this dude was in a spot where there were freaking 16-year-old
I worked
girls.
the door. And
I know you. I'm not saying you did anything with them, but you said I didn't put myself in the position. Every Saturday, you was in a position with little girls.
Touche, my nigga. Touche.
All right, what's the next?
All right,
topic?
next topic. Jesus.
That
All
was
right,
funny as
all right,
hell.
that was pretty good. Thank you. All right. Next topic. All right, so I don't know. Have you the election's coming soon, right?
Yes.
And I don't know if you heard about this candidate, the Vivek. It's an Indian dude.
Yeah.
And he-
Don't let me try to say his last name. 'Cause
No,
I already forgot.
Ramaswamy, I think is his
Something
name.
like
If I said it right, it's because I practiced it. But he was on the Breakfast Club recently, and people have just been killing the Breakfast Club because of that interview.
Yeah.
And the reason why they were killing him because they had one female. I have no idea who she is, but she was so ignorant in her interview. But he made some big talking points. One, he believes that the Supreme Court recently struck down affirmative action in school admissions. So the Supreme Court struck it down. You cannot make a decision to admit anyone based on race on affirmative action, meaning you have two candidates. The non-black candidate is more qualified, but they would let the black candidate in even
Just
though
because he was black.
Just because he's black. So they struck that down. And so his position is that that's great. Like everything should be based on merit. And so Charlemagne had a big, he's a proponent of affirmative action. He thinks without it, black people are not going to move forward. I'm of the position that I think that for a moment in time, maybe affirmative action had its place, but I don't think in today's day it has its place. I think if you work hard, bust your ass, and do everything, you can be as successful as you want. I don't know if you had Officer Tatum did a video on the same topic, and he made a suggestion that I thought was pretty valid. Applications should not have names or races, just a number. So you just line up resume to resume, and see who gets in. Now the issue is with a lot of colleges. I mean, for law school, one of the things I had to do is write a personal statement, right? Your personal statement is supposed to be made where you make yourself or you explain why you're different than any other candidate, right? So I grew up in the Bronx. My mom, Section 8. I'm Latino. Grew up in a poor neighborhood. I don't need to mark Latino on my application. It's pretty obvious off my personal statement. That's the only place where I was like, well, how do you overcome that, right? Because if it was just a straight application and it's da 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 da, what about all the other issues? Like hey, say we're the same exact candidate, but you went and you volunteered here, you did this, you did all these extra things. You have to submit that kind of stuff, right? So that's the only place. But the concept of, hey, no name, no race, submit your application and let the best man win. That's the theory. I'm kind of for that. The issue is the way society is now. A lot of times minorities are coming from harder situations where they don't have those advantages. And what Vivek said, and which I think I agree, he says that's where the problem lays. We need to address it from the beginning, from the household, elementary school, middle school, to give the minorities an opportunity to be as successful. And he talked about having choice of going to school wherever you want. So if you do have parents that care about your education and you're in a bad area, a bad school district, they will be able to put you in a better school district. Charlemagne, though, said, man, I think we're going to, without affirmative action, we have no shot. I disagree with that. I mean, I've seen too many successful minorities to say, oh man, without affirmative action, you don't have a shot. I have seen it in hiring practices where your name could affect, if you're going to even get the interview, right? John Smith versus Raheem Jones, they interview John Smith. I mean, and those are institutional. I think that's going to be a long time before that really changes. But I do like the concept of merit-based when it comes to school. You would hope that would happen in the workforce, but that was their position. And the lady that interviewed him was just so ignorant, and she was talking about leadership and.
Well, she still believes in affirmative action today.
She did.
Yeah, and I think that's where I disagree with her, and I agree with Vivek, where maybe like you just said, maybe at one point in time it did have a place, maybe for my parents or grandparents, you know what I mean? But my grandparents, they lived in Dominican Republic. They didn't even come here anyway. So my mom is the one that came here. So, and she came here back in the 70s, right? Mm-hmm. So, but for 2023, especially like right now, in the past few years, or maybe even the past 15 years, I don't think it really. I think as long as you work hard, I think as long as you really dedicate yourself to whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, I think that's going to be enough to get whatever career it is that you're trying to get. I don't think that it's fair for you to get a position because of affirmative action. Like, in other words, if you got 4 candidates, 3 white, 1 black, and your whole entire establishment is nothing but white people, we gotta let the black guy in. Like, even though the black guy might not have, or we gotta let the Latino in, even though neither one of them have the resume to get in, and the other ones do. For example, if you got 4 people, 3 have the resume. Let's just say the black person doesn't, but you let the black person in because you need to actually
have a quota.
You have to diversify your employment, and I think that's terrible. I think it should go by your resume and what what you've accomplished, what you do. I think that's what it goes by. I don't think you should just let an opportunity, give an opportunity to somebody for their skin. I don't care what skin color you are. I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian. You shouldn't get that job because of that. Because you're trying to diversify.
And I think we agree on that point. And to his second point, he was like, look, the solution is not at the moment of hiring or the school admission. The solution is backtracking to how do you fix minority situations where they do have opportunity to do well in school, 2-family households. How do you develop that kind of environment to allow them to grow and be successful? But that's something to me that's going to be generational. That's not going to happen in the next 4 years, 8 years. That's 30 years down the road. Right. If somehow they were able to make the environment where those who are disenfranchised or come from a lower social economic level would have access. Because man, if you grew up in the ghetto, there's not a lot of Harvard level students running around in the hood. Like it just the environment doesn't allow it. Your peers, your friends, your parents' friends is just not. That's not the environment. Versus the flip side, where you have an affluent family, all college graduates. It's expected that your kid is going to go to college and they're expected to do well. It's just, I mean, you can't. It's hard to compete with that. But I think at the end of the day, if even if you come from a background that is very challenged, if you do not perform, yes, you're going to have additional hurdles. Yes, you have to. But guess what? The cream rises to the top, right? Until something happens and that environment changes, you are going to have to build your resume. Guess what? You are going to have to be your A student in a difficult situation. Right. But, hey, when you get to the table, if you're the most qualified, and if you don't get hired, and if you're not admitted where you're more qualified than the other candidates and they did it based on color, then, hey, you have every right to go sue, take them to court, do whatever. But I think we agree on that point.
Is that what you do at the Coda Law Firm? You be hiring based on color? You see that, and you see black, and you say, yeah.
Well, look, in my case, I'll be 100% transparent. No, it's in my case, the Coda Law Group, 99% of our clients are Latinos.
Hispanic, okay.
I don't care if you're white, black, Chinese. What I need is someone that's bilingual.
Okay.
Right? Bilingual is one of the top tier things. Okay. My attorneys, I have Spanish speaking attorneys all the time, because at the end of the day, when you go to court, it's in English, right? But the day-to-day activity of communicating with the clients, sitting down with the clients, all that, bilingual is just for us to function. Okay. That's the way we are. We're a bilingual law firm, right?
So if they're not bilingual, you discriminate on them. You don't let them come in.
If they don't speak Spanish, they can't do the job.
Damn,
it's a job requirement. It has nothing to do on color. That's the thing. It has it. Be bilingual. You're good. I don't care what you are. I have an attorney. He speaks Italian. He speaks Spanish, and he's a white guy.
But English and Spanish, they got to speak both languages.
But for us to function,
not just Spanish. What if they don't speak English? They can't do it either.
Well, again, because our client base is 99% Hispanic, if I have an employee who doesn't speak English, they still could handle the clients. Okay. Right? Gotcha. A majority of the staff is bilingual, but I have a few that don't speak English. Few that are not really proficient in English, but their roles in the company really 90% of the time don't require them to speak English if they're dealing with clients that.
So what would you do? What would you do if your company actually got really big? Like I'm talking about, like really, 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 really big. And it was televised, like it was in the media, like. And then you have pressure on you about, hey, why is it only you only have one group of people that work there? What would you do?
I mean, it'd be the same answer. I mean, if we grew exponentially where we're getting English speakers coming in as far as a client base, you just hire. That's an easy hire, right? That's an easy hire. I've had more issues where I've hired non-Spanish speaking staff where I got to pull other staff from their roles in the company to help the non-Spanish speaking staff member to translate, to communicate, and it's just, as far as efficiency, it's not efficient.
So let me ask you this, like, so me, like, obviously I'm a little black, but I'm bilingual. You would hire me?
Regardless of color.
Even though I'm a little darker?
Regardless of color.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. Trust me.
Sure, affirmative action might be needed.
I'm not getting that lawsuit. That's easy. That's a non-issue.
Cool.
It's based on skill. Who the most qualified. Like I said, you could be any race. If you're the most qualified, you get the job. That's not an issue whatsoever.
Do you think some companies, like big companies, are hired based on skin color? Do you think that happens, or do you?
I think it happens everywhere. Everywhere.
You think they prefer to have just like some companies, like big companies, Fortune 500 companies, like do you think they really just focus on, like, they only want white people to be employed, and they'll just bring one or two blacks, kind of just.
I think that happens. I mean, like for me, like so in courthouses, every courthouse I've gone to, every police station I've walked to, you'll have a wall that'll have all the police chiefs, right, of XYZ.
Yeah.
I can promise you, I never see a black face.
You might see one.
I rarely.
It'll be one.
Okay, in a courthouse.
Oh yeah, you know that better than me.
In a courthouse.
What do you see?
Outside of Fulton County, any other courthouse I go to, and they have judge so and so, judge so and so, judge. They're all white.
All white.
I mean, are you telling me there's no black judges
there's no
around
Judge
here?
Mathis's over there?
Right, like there's no black judge around here. Like
there's no Judge Mathis's.
I've never seen them.
Only on TV.
But now in Fulton County in Atlanta, they do have.
Or Judge Joe Brown.
Nah, I've never run into those. I never run into.
So that's all for show. That's just.
I don't
TV,
know how those shows work.
So those are the court shows.
I tell you what, if they would cut me a check the way they cut those checks to those judges, I'd be a judge on any of those shows tomorrow. Those Judge Judy makes more money than anybody on TV.
Absolutely, she's killing
anybody.
Nah,
but
she's been around forever.
But again, I think it's a reflection of the way things have been.
Then you sound like you agree with affirmative action.
No, what I'm saying is there is a history of. Your question was, do you think companies do make hiring decisions based on race?
So if that's the case, then affirmative action is needed.
No. I don't think affirmative action is the answer.
Oh, okay. That's
right.
Different.
Okay. It's if you have two qualified candidates, right? I think there has to be a mechanism. If there's two candidates and the other person gets hired
So you think they should eliminate the question of race on an application?
I think so.
Everything else should be on there, like background, job history.
I think you can just put number.
Yeah, job history, your name,
and number.
Yeah,
that's
and
one
so
yes.
you can know.
Yeah, what school you went to, this, that, the other. Just put number.
But no race.
No race.
No ethnicity.
No ethnicity. No, I wouldn't even put your name.
Damn.
No name. Because if you're Manuel Sanchez,
but see, here's where I think that you're lying. I think you do want a name, because when you're hiring a secretary in your office, you typically want a woman. Am I wrong? So then that's cap. You definitely would want to know if you have two resumes. Let's say you're hiring for secretary, and you got 3 resumes on your desk. No, there's no name. Yo, this one right here, and it's a guy. What you gonna do?
Then that's the interview process at that point.
Yeah, and then you gotta say,
you know what? That's it.
Name, because there's certain positions that you probably would prefer.
But even still, even if you do have, well, okay, well, I guess certain schools have interviews, certain schools don't. I think that's different for work, right? Work, typically, any employment, you're gonna have an interview.
Of course.
Right? So even if you don't know name or ethnicity, the moment they sit down in front of you, they can make decisions.
Get the name out of the way. You might as well put the name so you know if it's a male or a female. I think you should have the gender, and you should have the name,
and not eliminate the name.
Eliminate the ethnicity, because you gotta put gender. Gender is typically on there too.
Right.
So you gotta put gender, and if you're gonna put gender, you might as well put the name, because what's the difference at that point?
Yeah, it's a hard.
You have to, because there's certain positions that there's a lot of companies that would prefer
a female.
Like you just said, a secretary. You would rather have a woman than a man.
You would prefer that is preferable, and that's what you see in 99% of anywhere you go.
And if there's a job that requires 200 pounds of heavy lifting, probably don't want a man.
True. The only issue is how do you overcome that, right? So say you don't know what the person is.
That's why you got to put the gender. You have to.
Okay, that's male, female. But
other than that, I think ethnicity shouldn't be on there, because that's what affirmative action actually applies to, women that are also that may have been.
But again, like you have your name is a dead giveaway sometimes, right? Yeah. Sometimes your name is a dead giveaway. It's a hard.
Not in today's society with all this. There's no gender.
I think it's at the end of the day, it's a hard. There's no easy solution. I just think going back to merit-based policies when it comes to school is a good thing. When it comes to hiring practices is a good thing. Yeah. But there's no easy answer. Obviously, there's still going to be decisions made by those in power, those that have decision-making ability, based on race or whatever. But you can't, I mean,
Well, I just know that if I ever apply at your law office, I'm not gonna put my race or my skin color on it because you're probably gonna send my ass back home.
You're too ugly anyway to worry about office.
You gonna send my ass back.
You haven't been to my office.
Dark-skinned Dominican motherfucker out here.
I got a bunch of Dominicans in my office, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
I do.
Your right hand woman
is
a
very
Dominican.
Yes. So yes.
That's facts. That's facts.
All right, let's wrap it up. We'll leave it on there. My people, mi gente, please like and subscribe. Stop the madness, and we see you next week.
This was fun.
Peace.
That was cool.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
We had some good laughs.
Hey, you got me on the damn nightclub shit. I was totally lost.
I never put myself in that position.
I totally lost.